I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg, and I think with that for the 2 millionth time.
At least that much. It's Friday. It's Friday afternoon, so that means excuse the intrusion.
Sorry
But
to
CRM Playaz got to talk sports.
Amen. And sorry to we might change the name to sorry to bust in on you like this.
Yeah, I'm still looking forward to when we're able to bring Alan Berkson and Jonathan Yarmus on and do a actually we got two battles kinda, because we got the Pardon My Disruption group, which is Alan and Jonathan.
That's right.
And then I still think we need to do this kind of show and show mashup between CRM Playaz and Disrupt TV.
Oh, that would be so much fun. Although, you know what? Actually, I'm now thinking I got something to be even better. Hey, Dorothea.
Yes.
Something to be even better. We do a show and show with CRM Playaz and baby Stephen A. Smith.
Now that would be one for the record books.
I bet you we could put one together.
I thought you were going to say bring in Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon.
That would be even better. But again, I bond with Mike Wilbon, Northwestern. Go Wildcats.
What is Dorothy? You know, the only American sports knowledge I have is okay.
Well, you got a good teacher.
But but she's not a Rams fan, so you know,
then she doesn't you don't have enough American sports knowledge yet.
Probably been hanging around Bob Fagel or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So we're gonna have a guest, and you know, for someone who really doesn't like Patriots and stuff, I always seem to have a lot of Boston sports fans just surrounded me. It's not a very good feeling either, by the way. And so we're gonna have. Well, at least he's not a Patriots guy. He is a Red Sox. What do you call him? The CIO, kind of the CIO of the Red Sox?
I call him the co-CIO of the Red Sox, even though the Red Sox may not call him that. But I do. That's he and Brian Shields kind of run the show for IT at the Red Sox. That's Jay, aka Jason Lumsden.
Oh, so he goes by Jay?
Yeah, he likes Jay. I always call him Jason. I have been doing it since day one, but he signs everything Jay. He calls himself Jay. So somehow I realized I've probably been missing the boat here for a while, as I guess have you, right? So I think we need to call him Jay.
I really like calling him Jason because it goes with Voorhees, and it always seems kind of a terror for me whenever I have to talk with Jason. So, you know.
How about you can call me Jay and you can call me Ray J?
Oh, I don't want to call him Ray J. I'm not going to stoop to that. I don't think that badly of the guy. But Jay, well, I'll call him what he wants to be called. I mean, you know, that's an important thing. So Jay Lumsden, Boston Red Sox. He's got some interesting things to say. He also, what didn't he play college hockey?
Yeah. I think in Montreal, right?
Oh, really? So he was trying to be like Guy Lafleur?
That's not actually, that wasn't a bad accent.
Really, when I was a little kid growing up in the mean streets of Lancashire, I wasn't into hockey, but I had a couple of buddies that were ridiculous. I mean, because Wilmington is 30 minutes south of Philadelphia, and anybody who knows that area, Flyers fans, they're like they had a term for them. They call them the Stepfords because they could ever do anything wrong. These people just loved them.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
So I had a lot of hockey fans around me, but in addition to just a whole bunch of Flyers fans, there was a pretty strong contingent of Montreal Canadian fans. And when I was a little kid, it was all about Guy Lafleur and Ken Dryden and some of the other guys. And so it was kind of interesting to see the battles between, you know, the Stepfords and the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, the funny thing, the Montreal Canadiens really were like the Yankees, meaning back in the days when TV wasn't much in Canada, they'd have the national hockey games that they would carry, and the Canadians would be the team. They're like the nation's team, even though now they're French Canadian, so who knows how it thinks up there. But the thing was that they are one of the original 6 hockey teams, and they were absolutely an amazing team. Like when I went to, when I was a kid, I used to actually, I was a Rangers fan my whole life, but I go back to the era of like Gump Worsley was the goaltender. And
what about Rocket Richard? See, I even know that guy.
Yeah, well, it was that era. Henri, right? Henri Richard, who was one of the, Hall of Famer, and John Beliveau, who was absolutely the Mickey Mantle of, the Montreal Canadiens in the 60s. I'm trying to remember. There was another guy. What was his name? He was a really great defenseman.
Oh, yeah. Look! Wait a minute! I didn't know Rangers fan, or is he an Islanders fan? I know he's Mets and Jets.
No, I think he's Islander. He fits the profile of these. They're not really New York fans. They're just like newer team in New York fans. And so Islanders, look, the Islanders literally stadium, Nassau Coliseum, the original stadium, was 4 miles from my house, and I never went. I'm a Rangers fan, but I don't hate the Islanders. I don't hate the Mets. I don't, I'm not like that, right? What did he say? What is he saying? Rangers.
He's a Rangers fan, so he's
Mets. Thank you.
He's Mets, Jets, Knicks, and Rangers, apparently.
Oh, so you're old school only. You're old school on the 2 least significant teams for you, and new school, quote unquote, new school now. Given that both teams came around in the 60s, it's not like they're exactly new. 50-year-old teams, but you're new school now.
By the way, let me just say, Dorothea, no, I don't. I thought that was like Vichyssoise or Francis or something, but no, I don't. Parlez-vous, whatever.
Not parlez, voulez-vous, which means do you like the French? He's not saying speak French. He's saying do you like the French?
Only if they don't like the Patriots. So that's kind of like and the only
stands resolutely against the New England.
The only French I know is from Lady Marmalade from Patti LaBelle back in like the 70s. Voulez-vous doucher à la trois, something like that. Now I have no idea what she's saying. So
I wonder what the Legion of Doom. Wow, Alan's just rolling with the
there it is.
I'm not exactly surprised, really.
I'm not either, because she can speak that language, and I just eat the fries from there.
I've never been. No, it's not.
Wait a minute. So when Patti LaBelle was singing that song, that was something dirty. I didn't know anything about it. I'm sorry. I don't know what I said.
I thought it meant voulez-vous coucher avec moi? Something like, do you want to kiss me?
She says Patti LaBelle's song is naughty. Why am I not surprised? Because Nona Hendrix is in there singing too.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi? I think I don't know. Do you want to coucher? I thought meant, I may be wrong, but thought meant kiss. So I thought it means, do you want to kiss me?
Well, you know who we can ask, since he's from up there, up yonder. Mr. J. Lumsden. How about that?
Oh, he's here. Wow.
Brent, you always find a way to push my buttons.
That's what I'm here for, man. That's what friends are for, man.
So in case I have family and friends watching back home, my allegiance lies with.
Oh, the Maple Leafs.
Well, yeah, we disagree again. You called the Canadians the Yankees of hockey, so.
I was right.
Well, they did win a lot,
and they were the TV. Yeah. They were the TV team.
So in the mid '90s, we moved as a family to Montreal from Toronto. So that's why I grew up a Maple Leafs fan. And then we went there on CBC, which is a Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, broadcast Hockey Night in Canada. I couldn't get Toronto games anymore. This is before technology, right? You got the one channel, so I was, I had to live in the enemy's domain. But I can say this: I agree with you. Toronto is my team. I will cheer for Toronto, but I absolutely respect what the Montreal organization does. Their fandom, their fan engagement, the atmosphere, it's phenomenal. So,
but that's good experience for you since you work for the Red Sox and you go against the Yankees. So, the Yankees are the guys that win most of the time, and you guys are holding your own a little lately here. But yeah, so that must give you a little bit of a deja vu as I break out my French there.
Wow,
it is a good parallel between the leagues. I think Montreal is a dynasty, just like the Yankees were. I think you're right, Paul. They've when I played hockey in Montreal, I played with a lot of players whose fathers played with the organization. So that it starts at the top. It definitely affects the players, and you just want to see. Working in sports, I guess what I want to say is you want to see good organizations, you want to see good people, and I think that transpires, all the way down to the players. I know at Fenway, I love seeing guys come during batting practice and give balls to kids. Just like in hockey, you want to see them flipping pucks to kids. That's what does it for me, I think.
See, I mean, I remember back in the day. So again, keep in mind, my years are the '60s, so it was a little different. And the Canadians were always like the team you had to beat. And again, it was Henri Richard and Gump Worsley and Beliveau, who used to be like phenomenal just to watch. And we were the Rangers. We didn't really have that much. We had one. Let's see. If I remember it, let's see, 64. That's around right. The goalie was Ed Jockerman, who's a Hall of Famer. And then, but our great player, our best player, who was not Henri Richard or Beliveau, was Rod Gilbert, who was really, he was a blast to watch. He was like the fair-haired boy type, the type, handsome, able to do anything, would score 25. It was back in the days when 60 points was a lot of points. He would score 50, 60, 70 points. We had others like Phil Goyette and others who were okay, and Vic Hadfield, who was kind of a thug. But
he's still with the organization, I think, too, as an ambassador. So he's still with the Rangers.
Goyette? I mean,
Rob
Gilbert?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I mean, again, my favorite was him. He was like the guy I would watch, but nobody really beat we came in typically third, right? Montreal just won. They kept winning, right? and again, it was you watch a guy like Beliveau and Richard play, it's like God Almighty, he was like.
Well, I think it's much more than that. I mean, their organization does such a good job of emphasizing that team concept, and I've always been a proponent of no one guy, no one talent is going to win you anything. It has to be the team, and everyone has to feel part of it. And I think those are the dynasties that you see do well. Everyone knows their role, and everyone's willing to change their role too.
I'm with you, but I was 14. I really wasn't thinking that deeply. Right? As far as I was concerned, I would watch Beliveau and Richard and go, wow, they were really good. Right? That was exciting, except we just lost 3-1. Right? So, it was more or less that. I would go to Madison Square Garden too. And back then, Madison Square Garden was Madison Square Garden was it was really fun to go to, because hockey in New York at that time was actually weirdly pretty popular, right? I mean, people liked going to hockey games. It was, I think the Garden Hall was 16 or 18,000, I can't remember, something like that, and they were filled every single time I'd go. And for me, it was just a hop into the city. So I go with my best friend at the time, is Bennett Liebman, who was ultimately ended up the Mario Cuomo's lawyer and the state commissioner of racing for New York, the state of New York. Wow. I still talk to him. And we would go to hockey games and Knicks games. And I loved being a kid in New York, man. It was fun. And hockey was part of it back then.
So in the 70s, when I was a little kid, that was like the Flyers' heyday with the Broad Street Bullies.
Yeah.
What did they win in 74 and 75 or something like that?
At least, I think.
Brent, my father's, I'm going to get this wrong. My father's mother's sister's niece married Bobby Clark.
Wait a minute. Could you say that again? What was that?
We had some indirect family relationship to Bobby Clark, so I grew up cheering for the Flyers. I just remember that. My father was out there when they won one of the cups.
Wow.
Did you want to like emulate his smile too?
No. Although my daughter does right now. She doesn't have any teeth, so
yeah, the world's worst mouth, literally. Or if you want to take it on the more positive outlook, a dentist's dream, right? With a dentist's dream, man. That mouth, if given he could probably afford it, would cost at least $60,000 to fix. Right. So
yeah, it was pretty brutal. And the goaltender was another French guy, Bernie Perrant.
He was.
Remember him?
Yeah, he was damn good, man. I used to like Bernie Perrant. I didn't like Bobby Clark at all. Right.
That means he did his job.
Well, you know what though? He now owns that. He and I think is what the Broad Street Bullies restaurant. I forget what they call it. Something like that. Actually, one of the things the Flyers offered as an incentive to pay for your season's tickets early was a chance at having a meal hosted by Bobby Clark and the Broad Street Bullies at the restaurant for you. That was more of a drawing type thing. They had a bunch of stuff you get otherwise, but one of the drawings was a meal hosted by Bobby Clark at the Broad Street Bully restaurant.
Wow, nice.
If you're a Flyers season's ticket holder, man, that's like pretty much like Mickey Mantle hosting a dinner for me at Mickey Mantle's restaurant.
Yeah,
I only ever met him once, and it was in Montreal. I shook his hand, but he was a type 1 diabetic playing a pro sport back in the day. Wow. My wife's type 1 now. I can't imagine doing that in the 70s.
Wow. Yeah. Well, those guys were tough. I mean, let's face it. They earned the nickname. They earned that nickname. They were like killing people out on the ice back in the day. God.
And where they played in Flin Flon, my D partner in college, which is Norwich, you can see the sign behind me. We won a championship. He was from he played for the Flin Flon Bombers, and it's a proud and tough organization. So you know what you're getting if you meet someone from who played for the Flin Flon Bombers.
Well, I honestly don't know what you're getting, but
I don't think I'm going to run into anybody down here in Atlanta that played for the Bombers, but you never know.
Actually, Brent, he was almost going to move down there. I'll make sure you get lunch with him.
That's all right, man. Hey, so let's talk a little baseball. I mean, what's the state of the baseball? Do you think we're going to see baseball this year?
I honestly, that is the most acrimonious relationship I have ever seen in any sport, bar none. Personally,
it seems to be getting worse too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And Tony Clark is not wavering, and the owners are not wavering. If we get a season of any, then you see proposals. What one was in the last week: 131 games, 114 games, and 50 games.
That's a pretty wide swath.
Slightly, right? And then not a single one of them is acceptable to anyone, right? So I'll put it this way. A week or two ago, I thought, yeah, we got a chance for a half season, which is kind of what I thought we were going to get. Now, I'm honestly, if I'm picking and really not, I don't think we're going to get the season.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as close to it. I read the papers just like you guys. That's where I get that information from. I know I try to get my kids playing in the backyard. That's, I think, the real sad story is, a lot of kids aren't playing sports right now. They're not learning those life lessons. I know we were talking about earlier. I think everything I've learned has been through a sports lens, teams, teammates, problems, discipline. And I think it's just unfortunate that like right now with the virus and everything going on, that kids can't get out there, play and learn those social skills they're going to need to succeed.
Yeah. I mean, it's the sad part too is, look, I mean, people, how would I put this? I know is when I was young, of course, and it's changed obviously, but we used to, I mean, baseball was like our role models. That's where our role models were. And to me now you watch it, it's like, look, I know kids don't see baseball as role model anymore, but the reality is, same time, it's a game that people know the athletes of, right? And very few of them are coming across as people you want to associate with during the midst of this. I mean, there are many who are doing really good things. Like, and you read about, so and so is giving $100,000 to this, $500,000 to that, or manning the food lines every day at kitchens, and we're seeing that are contributing to frontline workers. You guys did something I thought was wonderful, actually. I saw this on SGN, John Krasinski's show when he was still doing it, and he actually brought a bunch of frontline Red Sox fan nurses to Fenway. Empty field except for them and a couple of other people. And then on this, two things happened. On the scoreboard, the governor of the state thanked them, the mayor of Boston thanked them, and then the entire Red Sox team, one after another, thanked them, right, on the big jumbo screens. And they were, you could see they were like thrilled. And then they got a chance, in a matter of speaking. They said, look, Krasinski said, we also are going to give you each a baseball so you can literally throw out the first pitch of the season. And they all stood there and threw balls toward toward home plate. And it was great. And so those things are happening, but the acrimony and then Blake Snell shooting his stupid mouth off, just really hurt the game. And, and basically what, it's fascinating. You listen to the classic games that they're rebroadcasting and you realize, wow, you kind of miss those kind of days in baseball. And then now they're broadcasting Korean baseball and Korea's having another outbreak. So,
wow.
Well, yeah, baseball is just not baseball. I would say of all the sports, even including the NFL, is still being pretty stupid, is pretty much showing themselves up the worst.
It's tough right now. I mean, and even to your point, I was just thinking, like, if we did have baseball and we did have fans, how do you have that human interaction I think you guys and I grew up with, right? Like, you're down at the one row line, you're hoping a player comes by and signs something or says hi or you get a ball. I don't know what the future is going to bring to sports, because I think that connection is so important, and it's still going to be there, but it's going to change.
Sorry to break that up. That is not the first time I heard people say that my fan is hypnotizing them. It's kind of funny. But I like it. I'm sorry. I'm keeping my fan on, especially because it's like 90 degrees now. I don't know. Sorry.
But Paul, I will say one thing. When I was growing up, I was a Blue Jays fan, and we went to Florida. And I got to go to a Blue Jays spring training game, and I was selected to be the bat boy for that game. So it was a very cool experience. And I have to say, the things you read in the paper and you hear in the news and the perception you have of some people, when I got in that locker room, it was 180. Like, some of the people there are like, oh, he's not a nice guy. We're the nicest human beings. And I'll always remember that experience, and I still have sort of mementos from that. But, and that was guys like George Bell, Mookie Wilson, Fred McGriff, Dave Steve, and Pat Board. I just remember those guys, and they were so nice to me, and they were so welcoming. It was a great experience. I think we have to be careful with polarizing figures in the media, because you can't assume that just because one person says this, everybody thinks that, and everyone's like that.
I agree with you. I look, there are a lot of really, really nice players. I mean, there's no question about that. It's fascinating, though. And somebody made a really interesting point on MLB, actually, about that whole negotiations. They said, look, don't make it private, don't broadcast any of it, and when it's done, and then tell us what comes out. But the problem is they keep broadcasting all the acrimony that's going on, and it just fans flames. And I agree with, I think it was Casey Stern on MLB, on the Sirius MLB XM MLB network. And there you go, McGriff, another really good man.
Yeah, you gotta like the crime dog.
That's the thing is, there are a lot of exceptionally nice people in baseball. There's no doubt, and there's a lot of baseball teams. You guys do the Jimmy Fund every year. Yankees do Hope Week. I mean, every team does really good works, and there's no doubt about. And the players are all in. There's no question. The bulk of the players are really nice people. But again, as I was discussing with somebody on a call today, social media fans the flames of the worst nonstop. It's funny, as much as I've always defended social media, for its scope and capabilities, it really is poisonous at a lot of levels. And it's, the poison is is really horrifying how deeply poisonous it gets. And there's not much you can really do about it without making it even more poisonous, right? Which is what's so funny. So, but I agree. I just think I think the negotiations, and I agree with Casey Stern on this one, really, if it was him, they need to be private, they need to be closed, and they need to be decided. And when the decision is made, then tell us. Other than that, just take them off the table completely. Don't let us hear everything in the media. I don't care.
But it's hard to keep. I mean, all it takes is one wagging tongue. Even if 99% of the folks are on board with it, it just takes that one, and it gets out there. And then once it's out there, it kind of poisons the whole atmosphere for getting the deal done.
Well, at this point, the atmosphere is so poisoned, I'm not sure it's going to get done. I mean, Jay, do you actually think it's going to get done at all?
I'm hopeful it's going to get done. I think, we want, I'm not as a Red Sox employee, but as a fan, I want it to get done.
Me too.
I think we need that distraction, and we need those lessons that sports teach us. And we need that, that one thing that brings sort of our community here in Boston together. We want to cheer for the Red Sox, and you guys cheer for your teams. I want to sit in front of the TV with my kids and, and point out stuff. So I'm hopeful it's going to get done.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what role do you think technology will play? Like once we get past, the pandemic thing, what role will technology play in creating the kind of experiences for fans that make them feel comfortable about coming back to the ballpark?
I think that's a little bit to be determined. I know we're talking and looking at a lot of things. It seems to change week to week. It's helpful seeing other leagues go live because you can see what they're doing and what works. I think technology will absolutely be a part of it, as it is now a part of all of our lives, working from home, getting our jobs done in unique circumstances. It's going to change a little bit, and hopefully it's for the better. I'm always sort of an optimist. I think these things present opportunities that otherwise we wouldn't have looked at. And hopefully a couple of those really change, our effectiveness to maybe touch people that we couldn't touch before, or show Fenway to people we couldn't show before. So I'll always be an optimist, and I always think, hopefully technology will be here for the better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, really. From the standpoint of everything, I think we've seen it seep too. Technology, as we all know, is pretty much, it's dumb. I mean, it really doesn't have an outlook or an ideology, particularly that it reflects. So how you apply it and what you do with it is going to matter. And the good thing about we have seen when technology is applied really well is it really does it. Let's say this: it augments engagement, it augments impact. Right? It doesn't do as much. It creates it to some degree in different forms, but it augments it more. Because look, ultimately here we have the three of us. We're communicating, we're having a conversation. People are listening. At least one or two, and of course it could be just the three of us too. But at the same time, part of the reason that technology is helping us here is because we're already used to in-person human interactions and how those work, right? And so technology is basically augmenting it right here, not creating it. It's giving us an opportunity to have an actual conversation in a circumstance that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to, meaning we're geographies apart. And I think those kind of things are, and where the pandemic has actually sped things up, it's just that people are becoming much more comfortable using it to do that. Right. And not, look, again, to the point we've made on the other show, we're not undergoing massive digital transformation. Sven is back.
I think that's got to be Sven.
It's got to be Sven, LinkedIn user. It said he sent a complaint to customer service on that. This isn't digital transformation. We're balancing much more toward technology as we need to, which can lead us toward real digital transformation. But right now, people are 300 million people at least are getting used to the fact that technology like this for communication is going to be part of our lives, where past lives, 5 million people, maybe 10 million people, 20 million people were doing it. However, meaning I'm just basically throwing Zoom numbers at you. But ultimately it was a Jetsons thing, not a real thing. Now it's a real thing.
Well, let me give you another lens, Paul. I have 3 kids. My daughter is taking all of her classroom on Google Classroom right now. And she's very comfortable using the iPad. I can't say I agree with all of it. I think we're still figuring it out and we're still learning a lot. But can you imagine, 20 years from now, like that's her baseline, that's her starting point. She's already familiar and comfortable with using it. And she's even doing things like reading books with my father at night. So he's in Toronto, she's here, and they're able to seamlessly flip pages, ask questions, and they get a connection they wouldn't have had 10, 15, 20 years ago.
It's amazing.
You're right.
Amazing and wonderful. It's one of the great
things. Oh, by the way,
is because I think your point about social is important. Because you can make a comment and it's faceless, and you don't have to worry about seeing someone read it and seeing if they're sad or happy or whatnot. Where if I take my kids in the backyard and we're playing sports as a family, they can see the other person's reaction. They can see maybe their little brother not getting it, and we can teach. Hey, this is how you help them. This is how you teach them. This is how you become a leader. So I think. As much as technology is helpful and it's going to be here, it's never going to be the whole solution. It's always going to be a percentage.
It's augmenting. It's always augmenting. Technology's power, the same with AI and everything else, is it augments human activity. It doesn't substitute for it.
Right.
So that was Thomas Webernight. That is the LinkedIn user, not
Really?
Sven. So I'm thinking, aren't both of Sven and Thomas, aren't they both in Germany?
Yeah.
I don't think LinkedIn likes Germany, man. Maybe that's what's going on here.
Or Germany doesn't like LinkedIn. It could be that too.
There's some hate going on between LinkedIn and Germany. Sorry, guys.
Wow,
I don't know how to help you.
That's actually weird.
It might be an international thing. I don't know. Maybe we need somebody to leave a comment from like anywhere outside of North America. Let's play it like that, and let's see what happens, because that's just weird. But anyway, So Jason, let's do sports topics. Sports topic of the week is Drew Brees. Have you been following this at all?
Barely. Like I said, I have 3 kids. Well, I work full time. I joke I'm going to get fired as a homeschool teacher and as a nanny. I'm not doing too well at those jobs, but I try and catch the headlines and catch up at night. So I do know vaguely, unfortunately, he did make some comments, and I know people are coming out. And it's tough. I went to military school, even though I'm Canadian. So I definitely, actually, if you look behind me, I got both the Canadian and American flags.
Yeah. Oh,
there it is.
So, but I think someone made a really brilliant post, and I can't remember who it was. If I can remember, I'll send it to you, that kind of explained it. And I think it just comes down to communication, listening, and understanding is really what it comes down to. Because I think people assume they know what someone else is trying to infer or talk about, and that's never a good starting point.
Yeah. I mean, this Drew Brees made, let's say, basically a badly timed, undue comment, but his entire life is now being demeaned by people because of this comment, which he literally almost immediately apologized for in multiple ways, contritely, obviously. I mean, it's like obvious contrition. And, the guy you look at his actions throughout his history, $5 million to the state of Louisiana to help with COVID-19, frontline workers. During Katrina, right, Brent, he was doing similar things. And he was actually, if I remember correctly, he was actively out there helping people do at the time too. He's been nothing but a good person. Okay.
They gave him $5 million to state of Louisiana for coronavirus relief and helping the citizens. So that too.
I mean, that's the thing. His actions show that he is a good, honest, caring guy. He made a dumb comment. I know he didn't mean the way it came out was not what he meant. You could actually, even if you were a stranger who didn't understand the language, you would literally still. You're right, Michael. Michael Thomas is right. Well, and the guy who started it all, basically. So
he literally did.
Yeah, he did. I mean, but the thing is, everyone, even after his apologies and everything else, people are still jumping down his throat. Luckily, the guys we're trying to figure out how to do this, but guys like Charles Barkley, have come out in support of Drew Brees and saying, look, he made an undue, badly timed comment, but stop jumping down the guy's throat. He's a good person, right? And Barkley is not usually that kind of guy who's going to say that unless he means it.
I would say, and I'm trying to just at least bring up the visual here. So my take on this is, he said something really dumb,
right?
Really inconsiderate, bad timing. And it was, I believe it was his first initial knee-jerk reaction to the question. That was it. That was in his thought process. I truly don't think he understood just how bad that looked or sounded, particularly to his teammates. Because I don't know if you saw the video of Malcolm Jenkins.
Yeah, I did.
Who was basically in tears, talking about, his personal experiences and how it hurt him that Drew didn't understand that, being surrounded by, he's in a league of 70% or 60 to 70% black folks, black guys. And, speaking as a black guy, I've been stopped. I've been, some of the things that kind of happen to all of us at some point. And so when you're surrounded by that in your huddle, in your whole league, basically, when you say something that draws that kind of reaction, universal from all the players, I'm going to stick to the players, the people that he knows and that know him, because everybody else, might be jumping on the bandwagon with some of their reactions. So I'm just sticking to, he probably heard and saw the reaction from folks that he knows, at least a certain extent. And it was sharp and it was harsh and they were surprised. You could tell they were surprised that him being the guy that we just said donated X millions of dollars and did so many positive things in the community. I think their reaction was, my God, if Drew Brees doesn't get what was going on, who the hell is? And so I think it was that kind of reaction that got his attention, and I think caused him, of course, to rethink and I hope reflect and come out with an apology that I thought was genuine. I don't think it was a PR scripted or anything like that. And then he put out another, like a video after the kind of the statement. And then, you started seeing the guys in the league in his locker room that were on him originally for what he said. You saw their reaction. And those are the guys that know him better than like 99% of the folks out here, saying, well, his original thought is what he that's what he really means, and he can never change. He can never take it back. Look, I've said some things that were brought to my attention later on that I was like, man, I didn't know it was going to have that kind of impact. I didn't mean it like that. And I apologize. I think that's what happened with him. But it looks like there's a lot of people that are really going overboard in their condemnation and maybe don't know enough about him and maybe the players around him, now that he has said, his apologies, and maybe they can help get the word out, like Barkley and Shaq, both of them in this little video clip. They both, Shaq being from playing at LSU, he said, I accept his apology. I believe he's serious about it. And then Charles was just, look, I think it was overblown from the beginning with. That's what Charles was saying. But I think it's kind of hard to just hang on the initial thought and leave it at that. when it's a guy that's not like a John Rocker kind of guy. I mean, he is a guy that has shown that he cares about his community and he's given to the community. And I think you got to take that into consideration along with the stupid statement and also along with the apology. And we'll see what happens next.
Well, you know, the old expression, action speaks louder than words. And that's absolutely true in the case of people like Drew Brees, right? You know,
Michael saying his offensive line got to him.
Michael's on a roll today, man.
Someone said in the movie Blindside.
I think his nap did him some good.
Yeah, let me show him the
good, Michael.
There you go. There's the fan again.
So what do you think, Jason?
I think, you know, I was sitting here listening to Brent talk, and I think going back to it, I think people just have to, I mean, we're so quick to respond. Life is so fast. We're all about the headlines, but we just need to slow down, listen, and really think through what we're doing. And I know with this pandemic, I'm better in my community for it. You know, before I'd get up, I'd run to work, I'd get home late, I'd try and spend some time with my kids, where now I'm meeting people in my street that I've never talked to before. And now I'm talking to them. I know a little bit about them. So I think hopefully with all this stuff, we've just learned to, hey, like, we're all in this together. We're all here. Let's learn about each other. Let's help one another. And let's, you know, celebrate our differences. I know I've been all over the world. I've been to India, you know, at least 5 to 7 times. You know, that was eye-opening and changed me. So I think all these experiences, again, I'm an optimistic. I'm hoping that we can learn from them. We can be better, and, you know, mistakes will happen. Let's just acknowledge the mistake and move on and try and be better.
I mean, to your point, you're right. And look, ultimately, I think one of the big points people miss is everybody in the world was taken aback by this, right? I mean, it shouldn't have been, actually, as it turns out, but we were all, the whole world was taken aback, and we had to, in effect, mobilize a lot of new things very fast that we've had no actual experience doing, saying, thinking, or acting on. And consequently, when you do that, there's going to be a lot of mistakes along the way because you don't know how to do them, right? It's not like no one's had years of practice for this. And so, you know, people make stupid comments. I mean, when people look, I mean, certain things get accelerated, like finally here in Virginia, for example, finally, they're removing the Confederate statues. Finally. I mean, should have been done how many years ago? 1866, actually, would have been a good year to remove the Confederate statues. There he is, LinkedIn user Sven. Right, 1866 would have been a good year to move them, but we're finally getting rid of them when people are finally starting to wake up and realize things. But you know what? That doesn't mean everyone along the way who makes a dumbass comment, right, is evil by the nature of their comment, because again, they say things, to Brent's point, you know, basically shoot from the hip at the moment that it happens and regret it later. And they end up regretting it because so many people are also frightened and scared and jumping down theirs, and then they jump down their throat, right? It happens all the time. It happens historically. It happens in times like this. And, you know, now to all the point, right, really, things are beginning to resolve, meaning we're beginning to see how to do things we never did before. The sports world is, look, if we're looking at, since it's a sports show, sports world's a mess. I mean, it's just a mess. And a lot of people in it are as freaked out, whether they're wealthy super millionaires players or they're owners or they're people, you know, we don't even know of, fans, millions of fans. Everyone's scared, right? Everyone's trying to figure this out. And, you know, and people tend to lash out and react when they don't know how to really react or answer, right? So, and we're seeing that right now. And, you know, everything that's happened with George Floyd and the pandemic around that, this isn't the 60s over again. There's way too much fear involved in this part of it, right? So, the sport, and again, sports world, it's had a great life so far, right? Meaning historically, and all of a sudden it's not a great life anymore. And these young
where is Jimmy Stewart when you need him?
Yeah,
it's a wonderful.
That's right.
So
Hey, I want to point out something that I'm putting up Alan's thing here. And it says we live life too quickly and respond too reflexively. Drew Brees did that first. He responded very reflexively and very knee jerk to this question. So you can't absolve him from that.
No, stupid.
But on the opposite side, the reaction and the reflex to his reflex has been, I think, overdone, given who Drew Brees has been up until the point he said the dumb stuff and he apologized for it. Like I said, if this was John Rocker,
yeah,
there's nothing
right in there with everybody black.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or if there's another story down here. I don't know if you guys have got this one. The Georgia quarterback for Georgia, Jake Fromm. I don't know if you've heard this one.
No.
He was drafted. I forget who drafted. I think he got drafted by Chicago or something like that. So I guess somewhere along the line, they went digging in his past tweets, or they found something where he was having some kind of an interaction and said something to the effect of, they shouldn't sell guns to just everybody. They should only sell guns to the elite white people.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
To me, that's worse than what Drew Brees said.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I know it's a kid, but still, to me, and it doesn't appear to be as big of an upheaval around that. Maybe it's because he was a kid. Maybe it's because he hasn't made the big bucks yet. But to me, that is way worse than what Drew Brees said.
When did he say this?
This is recently. Let me see. Go ahead and talk, and I'll see if I can pull it up.
I got a thought for you. And again, I'm going to pull my daughter into this. I think we all just need to go back to first grade. One lesson that I'm trying to teach her, and I can't remember who I heard it from, but people don't remember how much money you have, what you did, all like the fancy car. They remember how you made them feel. And I think that's the starting point. So, I think some of these people need to go back to elementary school and relearn some of those fundamentals.
You're absolutely right. Look, and the other side to the whole story too, there's a big difference between stupidity and evil. Okay. And, John Rocker, evil. Drew Brees, stupid. Okay. Stupidity is forgivable. Evil's not. Right. So, and if you're crazy enough to not distinguish between them, your life's going to be a mess. Right. You have to learn how to your point, go back and relearn your life. All right. So here we are.
So somebody's asking me, I guess is asking, how do you still support the NFL? Hey, I like watching football. I mean, that's all it is for me. It's not about politics when it comes to football. For me, I watch it. I love my team. I love what goes on the field. That's all I can say about it. But you can find politics in every aspect of life. You can find negative with every part of life. Sometimes you just want to enjoy something. That's all.
Not only that, institutions have good people. It has bad people. You don't stop supporting the institution.
I definitely stop letting coaches raise your kids. Now that's, yeah.
Agree there. But I mean, that's a different discussion for a different day. But there's a good.
Going back to an earlier comment, like there's excellent coaches that teach you lifelong lessons, that are mentors, and they help you, and they all kinds of kids.
Yeah.
And there's other coaches that are absolutely horrible. I don't want to get into that because it's
a different discussion. It really is. I mean, ultimately though, look, when we're dealing with the biggest issues human beings create institutions, right? People participate in institutions. Some of those people are horrible. Some of those people are good. Some of those people are okay and conflicted and different.
It-
You don't
This is a great
stop
quote.
saying the institution needs to come down because we ran across a stupid idiot or an evil person, right? You deal with the person. And now if the institution fosters those things, then yeah, that's a whole other thing. But the NFL, look, the NFL leadership, the commissioner and company have said some astonishingly stupid things, right? Like we're going to have full houses regardless of unless we're told not to. That's literally ignoring the world as it is right now. I'm not saying they won't. I'm not saying it wouldn't even be a good thing, but it has to be able to do that. You don't just say that's our baseline. You align yourself with the universe, first. And the universe says right now you do that and you become a hotspot and a ground zero on COVID-19. So you're willing to sacrifice fans and players to make money at the NFL? That's not how that works, right? So that's stupidity. That doesn't make football, you question the game. Of course, everyone's questioning the game now because of concussion protocols and everything else. And that's a whole other discussion. But sports itself, the institutions they can be very valuable, very important as long as they're run right. There's nothing inherently wrong with any particular sport, right? You have to make changes to make it better and better, and fix the problems it has. But you don't drop the whole thing because of the one.
And I think you use these as opportunities to teach people, right? If these mistakes weren't made, these stupid comments weren't made, some people may still be believing this stuff or still walk around saying it. Like, I think this is an opportunity. This is a game I'm not willing to give up on. I want to voice my opinion. I want to listen to other people. And again, I go back. I think we need to listen and understand. I know I grew up in Quebec at a time when Quebec was trying to separate from the rest of Canada. My teammate was probably 95% French Canadian. Those were some of the best conversations we've had in that locker room. So I think
the FLQ. I remember them. I met them back in my day.
I love that quote by Maya Angelou that Michael. Sincere ignorance versus conscientious stupidity. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that. I think. Well, I would take the sincere ignorance, because I think once they're shown the light, so to speak, and let's hope this is the Drew Brees. That's what this is. Once they're shown the light, and I think his teammates definitely showed him the light. Mm-hmm. Then the apology, and then the follow-up. We'll see what happens. Right now he just freshly apologized, so it's kind of hard to say, yeah, I think he's gonna do this or that. You just have to wait and see, and see if the apology and the actions that come after it lead to what I hope it does. Because I don't know Drew Brees at all. We've seen him, on the stage at certain events that we've been a part of. He seems like a good guy, just based on the stuff before this week, all the stuff he did around with New Orleans, helping to build it back after Katrina. And I'm not even talking about the on the field stuff. I'm talking about stuff in the community.
Yeah.
And when you see, I go back to the teammate thing again. I think the reaction from the teammates really said a lot. They were surprised and disappointed more than anything that this guy has never shown or said anything like this before. And I think it caught them off guard. And I just go back to Malcolm Jenkins. That dude was in tears describing, his emotions around it and what he's faced and what he knows, most of the league has faced. And for a guy like Drew Brees to not seem to get it, that's what I think caused the most reaction, at least from the guys that know him, his teammates know him more than most.
Well, I'm looking at something here. Joe Horn, who's a former Saints player, said this. He said, I guess this was yesterday, people should not be throwing Drew Brees under the bus, and they definitely need to pump the brakes on labeling him a racist. People that are criticizing him, like LeBron James and other celebrities, don't know him. They need to check his resume. I love my race, and I love New Orleans to death, but I know Drew Brees, and Drew is a good person. And until you've walked beside him and gotten to know him, his wife and family, you definitely have to give him a pass on this one. Allow Drew a chance to think about what he said and come back and make this right, and I know he will.
See, that's what I was focusing on, the reaction of the people who know him best, not the world, because there are people that I don't know, don't watch football, that don't know anything about football. So all they knew was the videotape that came out, and they went to town.
Again.
And it's once again, it's just, before you do that, just because it looks bad on the surface. Of course it looks bad on the surface, but you got to go beyond the surface before you just completely 100% condemn the guy forever. And that's, a lot of people were doing that because of just that initial surface of the video and not knowing anything more about him.
That's fear, man. I'm telling you, with protests, with all of this, what we're seeing now, where I was, again, I've been talking lately for some reason, everyone's calling me up because I was in the 60s and I was active. So people are asking me about comparisons. I've had, today alone, I had 4 calls literally just for that.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, people said, you were in the 60s. What do you think? And the one thing that's different, and it goes to the Drew Brees point and why he was attacked the way he was, is people right now look, people were upset and angry in the 60s, but they weren't frightened to death. Right? People here are frightened to death because the uncertainty of the future, right? They don't have any control over it. And so this kind of thing leads to this massive overreaction because it's basically a way of frightened people, terrified, scared individuals trying to get control back. That's what you're trying to do there. And that's how you do it. You attack, you focus on a thing that you can aim at. That's because right now you can't aim at a coronavirus, right? And so that's why you see this. It's all part and parcel of everything going on. And because we do have social media, it's very easy to, massively, viralize it, so to speak. And that's what we're seeing, I think.
I would say I saw the reaction was more out of anger than fear.
Yeah.
The folks that I have here, it was anger.
No, that's
pure anger.
Expressed in anger. That's how it works. But it's why the vitriol is so extreme. No, angry is not. All right, so it's not just football we're talking about.
Well, first of all, we're not even talking about this violence thing. We're talking about something didn't even happen on the field. So we're not talking about
football's
what
not
happens
the cause of all the anger and rage out there at the moment. There are problems in football. That's
all right. I don't know where this. Just get away from that one.
Look, all I'm getting at is fear leads to anger all the time, right? And that's not an unusual. Look, the best way to put it is this: someone is more willing to lash out even harder when they're frightened, right? Because you fright, that it's a distraction from a nameless fear, and that's what it is. And so you have a target, you can aim at that target, and you can focus all your vitriol and anger on that target, and it momentarily relieves you from fear, right? Momentarily, it's not. It's still there. You're still frightened, but it's fear. It's no, you know why? Because it's a known thing. Right, where right now the fear now is we have no idea how this is all going to turn out, right? And I think that is why you see this massive overreaction to Drew Brees, and it's
maybe it's fear, but I guess I'm seeing people are seeing hope because I think of not just Drew Brees, there's just the overall situation, what's going on with the George Floyd thing and the response, and seeing a difference in terms of the response seems to be a much more diverse response than what happened, like let's say in the 60s or something. you diversity in race, color, age.
Well, it's a different,
You know.
different again, frameworks are different.
So I think there's some hope being seen here, but if the hope doesn't turn into something more tangible, then maybe you'll see, the fear creeps in, and
Oh,
then more anger creeps in.
see,
But right now,
the
I
other
think
way
people
around.
were
You
the right now people that I'm hearing from, it's straight anger. That's
again,
it. Maybe it'll be crystallized in something else down the road.
you're not
But I'm not hearing about fear right now.
no, because no one talks about fear. I mean, fear is just something you have, right? To your point, the anger is how it expresses itself without any question. Steve's
Yeah.
right on this one. I mean, anger is a different emotion. Look, you can be frightened to death and be furious, and there's no what's the word, discontinuity between that at all. I know. Look, I know.
I think it's fear of disappointment. I'm thinking it's fear of disappointment. I think it's fear of
his team, maybe, but
no, I'm talking about once again. I'm going a little broader. Black folks, and it's a fear of having another movement not lead to anything else.
Well, that's true.
That's a fear of being disappointed once again, and that's what I think. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing fear of we're going down this road again, and if nothing changes once again, that's what I'm seeing.
Well, and unfortunately, there's no possible way to disprove what you said, meaning you're right. It could very well lead to nothing. Where the one thing I've seen, which is different than the 60s, I have to say, and this was a uniquely hopeful sign, although it's small so far. Back in the 60s, as far as we were concerned, law enforcement were the enemy, period. Period. There was no nice law enforcement people. No, if a cop tried to support what we were doing, he was an agent, and we would throw him out. It wasn't even a question. We're starting to see this very interesting thing to me, and who knows? It happened here in Manassas, in fact, just as much as Flint, Michigan, Fayetteville, South Carolina. I think Atlanta, a bunch of other places too. We're seeing the police join the protesters in a pretty big way too. The one, to me, the most dramatic one was the one in Fayetteville, where you saw the line of protesters and the line of police, and it was like 60 cops, and they looked like they were about to stand off, and then all of a sudden, relatively all of a sudden, the 60 cops kneel, all 60, the entire line. Watch the video. It's like, that's exactly my response too. Wow. And that, we didn't see any of that in the 60s, not a bit. And that to me is, it's kind of when you where the hope comes in, to your point exactly, is when you see things like that happening, that maybe this is different. Maybe something can change. Simon, come back and we can talk to your subject another day. And that's something to me that I think is exceptionally interesting, exceptionally important. And again, everyone's learning as we go on this thing. And because of social media being as poisonous as it is, people overreact, and it's going to keep going on for a while.
That's the thing about social media. It reveals, it amplifies, and it accelerates who we are.
Yeah.
So if you are a good person, then you use the platform to amplify and accelerate who you are, the goodness. But if you're not, if you're a bad person, well, guess what? It does the exact same thing. It actually becomes, bad or evil seems to get more attention anyway, generally speaking. It's I think it's way too early. I know people, this week was I think the end of the week was much more positive, because people wanted to see these 4 cops arrested and charges filed. But and it happened. But I always say, look, for Freddie Gray, they arrested folks. Nobody got found guilty. Tamir Rice, I don't know if they arrested anybody or not, but nobody went to jail on that. So there's time and time again, people have gotten arrested. Oh, Eric Garner.
Right.
I don't even think they got arrested. They just
No.
got fired, and that was it. So nobody went to jail. So we'll see what happens here. I don't know. Right now it feels different, but we won't know until we know.
I will say one thing on that, though. The Minneapolis state attorney said this is going to be a tough case to prove, quote unquote.
Yeah. Well,
That
I mean,
bothered me a bit.
how often do you see cops get actually found guilty of murder against somebody? It doesn't happen that often.
No.
Oh, Michael has been on fire. I think that's a good note to end on. How could you top that?
Yeah. Our fourth panelist today.
Oh, wait a minute. Danny says, did you see what is going on in Long Island, especially in Merrick?
No, I have no idea.
Maybe it's good that we don't see it right now.
Yeah, we got to definitely go, but I will check, Danny. Donnie, I promise.
Wow, Jason, Jay? I got to make sure I say Jay.
We were talking about that before the show. We both got to get used to calling you Jay.
So when you said yes to coming on here today, I bet you had no idea this was what you're going to be coming on for.
No, but I go back to my experiences. I mean, I'm hopeful. So I to your point about being angry and fear, I'm not going to tell anyone how to feel, how to respond. You don't know what they're going through, and you can't. But I'm committed to listening, to learning, and to working together. So, and I think we're gonna have to roll up our sleeves, and it's gonna take hard work. It's not just a headline again. I think that's a theme. Like, we got to get down in the story. We got to understand what's going on. So,
well, the Red Sox are lucky to have you, man. That's all I can say.
And Brent, my question for you is, what are you doing with all these Boston sports teams on TV? Like, how are you controlling your emotion?
Why are you going to try to get something started right before we say goodbye, man? What's up with that?
I'm just worried about you. You can do the Keenan Thompson. What's up with that?
Oh, God.
That is still one of the best SNL skits ever. I think it's hysterical.
Danny wrote a comment, but I don't want to end on something that doesn't feel good right now. So Danny, yeah, we'll keep it in the back of our minds. Let's put it like that. Hey, man, it's actually I enjoyed this.
This was amazing.
It was a good conversation.
Yes, it was. It was one of the best.
And yet again, it was one of our best conversations, and a dude from Boston had to be involved.
Well,
good Lord. At least it wasn't Bob Fagel.
We can at least say he wasn't born and raised in Boston.
Oh,
it's okay.
That's all right. That's okay.
No, that's okay. That just takes the onus of Boston off it.
As long as you,
I know you guys are wrapping up, but there was a game in Boston that was Saturday night. So if you're Canadian, Hockey Night in Canada, the Maple Leafs were playing. I wore neutral colors, right? I like Boston and I like Toronto. I'm not going to pick a favorite. But my kids were wearing Bruins outfits. My wife dressed them. They were all cute, dressed up. Wouldn't you know, during the national anthem, Hockey Night Canada came over our family. And all of a sudden, my phone was blowing up with all the people back home. Bruins on my kids.
I think we're going to have all your relatives on the show next week.
Was Don Cherry still on at that time, or?
Yeah, this was 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I always wanted to be in Hockey Night in Canada. I just didn't want that to be the moment.
Nice. So Danny just wanted to know where you're from. Is Danny Canadian? Can't remember.
No.
Oh. I lived in Collingwood, Markham outside of Toronto, and Montreal. Lived in Montreal for 6 beautiful years. So I got to experience a lot. I loved it.
Great city.
All right. Let's end it on that positive note.
Right.
This has been a good one. So thanks.
Michael's coming.
Wait a minute. How did I even come up here? I'm the one with what? Elamite. What the heck is that?
That was a Seinfeld episode, but I don't remember.
Elamite. Sounds like
Michael
somebody from back in the biblical. I was Jed the Elamite.
He is literally on one of the great roles like I've ever seen.
That's what happens when you shelter in place for a little too long. So that's.
And
But
when
anyway, this
work
has been
from
fun. Jay, thanks for joining us. We'll have you back some other time. I'm just glad, we didn't hear too much from Bob Fagel, so that made it a little bit more bearable. So I'm good with that. But in the meantime, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And for Jay Lumsden, we are the CRM Playaz, and we will see you next week.